Today we're at Syringa Park 4x4 Paradise, which is at the Avianto estate at Bosbrekers in Driefontein Farm. So this is just outside of Johannesburg. Davy from Afro Offroad will be sharing some information on safety tips around recoveries and also how to do safe recoveries and what gear to use and how to use the gear.
What do you need to recover that vehicle? And there's a simple calculation that can be done, and theoretically you should just do it once, and then you are sure that your recovery ropes cover your car in worst case scenarios. So in trail driving there's an unspoken rule: if you're stuck, we use your kit. If I'm stuck, we use my kit because my kit I bought from my vehicle. Which in 90% of the cases is not what happens. Someone just goes, hey, you're stuck, let me put a rope.
You have the pull around here, the bridle, all connected. You'll take up the slack, and up it rock. Okay. So raak het die slack op pad. Okay, he's under tension. Die raak het in die gaan op goed. Why were you stuck?
We just shared a small video of the training. We didn't want to share too much because Afro Offroad do offer courses training for off-road scenarios and recoveries and recovery gear, etc. So we didn't want to share too much because they do offer these courses on a daily basis. Next we took on a little off-cam obstacle, which was relatively easy but fun. Thereafter we took on a deep trench that had a little axle twister in the middle, which we all enjoyed. It was quite easy as well, but I do think we have to come back when it's wet to really get to experience the obstacles a lot better. The very next obstacle was a whole lot of axle twisters that we had to drive through, which was actually quite cool and good to see how the vehicle reacts when not all the wheels are making contact with the ground. It also gave the guys an idea of how the traction control performs when all the wheels are not making contact with the ground. And it was also good to get to test the diff locks and see where everything is working and where it is actually needed most. The sand hills were next. That was quite great in terms of being able to test, you know, how slow you can crawl, and also hill descents, you know, when it is slippery and soft sand involved. And just being able to see how to best control your vehicle in those situations. I must say we all did learn a lot, as Bobby did spend most of the day with us, so he got to guide us and give us a bit of advice and tips on how to take obstacles on a lot better. Wow, this looked a lot better on video than what it actually was in real life. Wow, let's start. I tried to guide low lux through the rocks and point. I should have let him climb out of the obstacle. Saw a line and I thought that low lux was capable of going through and getting out of the rock bed without having to get stuck. And that, lo and behold, Lolux got stuck. Just that I had to do a little bit of a recovery in terms of to jack up the wheels with a high lift jack and just crack a couple of rocks, and Lolux was able to drive out without any real damage. One or two of us were bold enough to take on the water obstacle. The very next obstacle was a ditch that you drive into, and then you have a straight up slope that you have to climb out. It was quite fun. It was interesting to try it at first without the diff lock on. Once I did put the diff lock on, it made it so much easier just to crawl out, which was actually really fun. Again, I think it's a completely different scenario when it is wet. Like I said, I do think we have to go back and re-experience Syringa Park in its worst. Next up was the gorge. The very infamous gorge, where it proved quite difficult. I think a few of us had a little bit of damage we picked up. Fun, and yeah, look forward to doing it when it's really wet.
Het luisteren we daar doppen zijn, dat is echt super. Ah nee. Het is wel glad. Ja. Buiten is square. Nou, hij gaat rondlenen.
I've already done that.
Ja, zo bedoel ik.
He's digging a hole in the back.
Go back a bit.
Gave up too soon for a little bit.
You gonna time it? Yeah, you learn. Beauty. Second gear, 2,000 rates from the top to the top. But don't steer until the front wheels have time to split bit. Keep it straight. Once the front wheels at the top, steer. Okay.
Thanks, Marcello!
Problem.
I don't know what this obstacle was called, but I made a silly mistake and I spun myself in between trees, and I actually required a recovery just so that I didn't roll back into the trees behind me. But yeah, thanks to Lawrence, it was a textbook clean recovery.